What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be installing this hydraulic handbrake onto my 350Z, and I'm going to do it in a way that I've never seen done before, and there shouldn't be any cutting required, which is the biggest thing for me, as I didn't want to cut into these panels. I sell a lot of Z parts online, and I know how much all these parts are going to cost. So if I ever wanted to revert this car back to stock, it would be quite expensive because I would have to replace all these panels. So I'm going to show you how to do this with a tiny bit of cutting. There's going to be a tiny bit of cutting for the way I'm going to do it, but the way you can choose to do it, you don't have to do any cutting. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let's start taking it apart. And I should mention that there are brackets that will bolt up to your shift knob, and then all you have to do is take this off, cut a little bit into here, and then you can have a bracket right here. The problem is, from the way where I see the bracket, is with the leather seats is 100% gonna hit, and you know, then you're gonna have to cut into this a lot. So I didn't want to do that route. I'm doing a different one, and so far I think I'm in cheaper than if I would buy that $30 plate. Alright, this is the setup. So what we have here are these two brackets. You buy them at the store, they're like 8 or 9 inches long, pre-drilled, which is my favorite part. And on the front of this hydro, there are 2 holes. So I just had to drill 1 hole because it wasn't quite lined up. It wasn't lined up well enough to use 2 from that hole. So I had to just drill another, and then there's 1 on the back, 1 hole. So I just put the 1 bolt through, and I angled these in such a way that this could line up. Now, it's a pretty tall handle, so really my best bet is to grab it at the top, where I get the most leverage anyway, but I almost have to grab it at the top, just where it's sitting. It's very close. It's very, very close to this. Obviously, I made sure to put the bolt in, and that this one end up hitting that. And I also checked the leg clearance. So if I take this bolt out and I just kind of like lean my leg up against it, I have to ask myself if it's going to be uncomfortable. With this nut in there, it might rub, but I don't find myself resting my leg there frequently at all. So what we'll do here is we'll fasten this down with some self-tapping screws, and it should hold this in place quite well. Now, the part where I said I'm going to modify it and you don't have to modify it is I want this to be right up close and personal with the wall right here. So if I move it, you can see the black hydro box. If I slide it back in, it's up tight against the plastic, and there's a nut that has to go on the plastic. So I'm going to drill all the way through, and I'm going to put the nut on this side of the plastic and kind of pull the plastic to hold the handle tight. It's got a locking washer, so I'm not really too worried about it. I mean, the worst thing that happens is there's a little slack in here, so that should be good, and then it'll look clean. And I guess one thing that I want to point out is I'm going to flip this upside down so that the lines will be pointed down, which is something that I've seen once. I've seen one person do it. Everybody else loops their lines, which, if that's the look you prefer, go right ahead and do so. I, however, am not going to do that. So I will be flipping it down, which means my Willwood logo will be upside down, but it's still a lot cleaner than those loopy lines. And I get full access to everything else. It's almost as out of the way as it could be. And I thought about putting it on the passenger side, but then I got a really long reach, which could be a little bit difficult. It also blocks my cup holder, and that is important to me, to have the cup holder. The one modification that I'm going to do to the hydro is I'm going to add another hole. So I'm going to take the hole where you can see that nut is. I'm going to move it up a few inches so that the bar can be straight, because right now this piece is slanted, and if I can move this end further up, then it can just go straight across and I won't have to deal with the different heights changing on me. So that would definitely make that move along a lot better. Otherwise, all the dash I took apart in about 10 minutes. It's not hard. There's probably 10, 12 screws. I don't know what you guys got for radio, so that might vary it a little bit, but this is what we're going to do so far. You'll notice that it is an inline hydro, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a line up to the cubby in here where I'm going to have a reservoir, and I'm going to send it to the back with dual calipers. The reason I'm doing this, one, is because that makes the installation of the car look a little bit cleaner. Reason number two is because I got this hydro used for a really good deal, and it just so happened to be the inline hydro, and I want a dual caliper. That is the other reason. Okay, this is where I'm at again. I made sure that the arm clearance is good, and then the front bar that you see right there is gonna sit on top of whatever the hell that is. I don't even know, to be honest. I tried ripping it up and it wouldn't, so I'm just gonna drill through it. The other side, you'll notice I shortened a little bit because there's a little bit of that there's a little more of that material that loops around and comes over here, and I decided that I was just gonna cut the end of the bar off so this whole bar can sit flat, because it's already got 4 screw points, and that should be plenty good for the back. And then I'm happy with this position. Looks like the seat can still move enough. It can still come forward about another 3/4 of an inch. So this is where I'm gonna bolt it down, and then all the interior pieces should still just be able to go right around it without an issue. Alright, this is what we got so far. They're all bolted down using self-tappers, except for the last one, which I stripped out. I removed that piece of whatever the fuck it is out of there because every self-tapper I put through it and then went into the metal stripped. So I decided to just take it out, and then I drilled pilot holes for the self-tappers. And then so far it's holding in pretty good, except for that last one, which I stripped when I caulked all these. So I just put a bigger screw in there. And it seems to be holding just fine. It seems to be quite sturdy. There is some play in it. It is just a flat bar. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's definitely something I can work with. I can always do some support underneath here if I need to. Alright, if we skip forward just under 2 weeks, it's all set up. Everything's installed. This is what full lock is. So it's pretty tight. It's all bleeded. The brackets are on. And I can tell you what I do and do not like. So in this mounting position, it's got a little bit of play. So what I was thinking about doing is getting some of those little bars. I think they call them splitter adjustment rods, and putting one of those from the top of this bracket down to a piece in my trans tunnel just to stiffen that up. It's got a tiny bit of play, and I want it to be rock solid. That's all. And then because I flipped this upside down, which I thought was the coolest and smartest thing ever, and wondered why nobody ever did it, I realized why. Because all your air obviously goes to the top, and it's near impossible to bleed. But you can see it is bled. I just had to disassemble it, flip it upside down, and bleed it upside down, which is very hard to do with solid steel lines, might I add. Alright, my camera's starting to blur up, so I'll make this quick. It's a humid day. Here's where the fluid reservoir is. It's got a line snaking around, down underneath, and then back to here. And overall, I love it. Absolutely love it. You can see I flipped the arm which was on this side to this side, so it wouldn't hit the center console right here. But otherwise, it's awesome. So if you guys are thinking about doing this, that is the way I personally did it, and I like it. I've never seen it done this way before. And this way you don't have to do any cutting, except I did drill through this plastic piece to get the bolt all the way through. But, you know, worst case, if you bring the car back to stock, you can just put a little grommet in there or something. Or if you don't even want to do it that way, you don't even have to get it tight against this plastic piece. You can just bring it out a little bit and have it right there. So that's my take on it. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you haven't and you found any value out of this, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed.